As that man who is the Republican candidate continues to distance himself from Project 2025, director of the project, Paul Dans, who used to be a top advisor to you-know-who, has stepped down. Mm-hmm. His campaign, you-know-who's campaign, keeps saying he doesn't know anything about it. Nothing. He never saw it before, never heard of it. But his VP, JD, wrote the foreword of the book written by Heritage Foundation President Kevin Roberts, who co-authored Project 2025. See how funny that is?
People seem to be surprised that the first felon that we ever elected to the White House commits crimes, but, or breaks the law.
Right, breaks the law.
But clearly, he has no respect for the law whatsoever. And so, for the most part, it seems like they've been going after probationary people because probationary employees do not enjoy the same protections.
They lack some protections.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, it'll be interesting to see where the unions go with some of these lawsuits and how successful they are. But again, ultimately, I think that he's trying.
Representative Jasmine Crockett and Whoopi Goldberg engaged in a compelling exchange on The View, where the Congresswoman passionately defended her views on the state of American democracy and the actions of the current administration. Goldberg, known for her direct and probing questions, challenged Crockett on the effectiveness of the Democrat strategies and messaging. The conversation quickly evolved into a sharp, thought-provoking debate. Crockett, never one to shy away from confrontation, pushed back against the criticism, emphasizing the urgency of the political moment and the consequences of inaction. Their exchange highlighted the ongoing struggle between holding political leaders accountable and uniting in opposition to policies that threaten fundamental rights. Let's wait and see what they had to say.
And ever since day one, baby, that pen been going and it ain't stopped, and it's steamrolling over all of our rights and our liberties and our freedoms and everything that we thought was the foundation of this country, our Constitution.
Yes.
Seems like we're saying, well, nope. With a pen, get rid of the Constitution. With a pen, get rid of impoundment and other laws that exist.
Do you think that Americans just didn't believe that he would go with that Project 2025? Or what? What was that? I mean, he said, I don't even know what it is. Remember?
Oh, I remember, honey.
Yeah.
I remember there was actually a hearing that we had in oversight, and it was right after he said, oh, I know nothing about that Project 2025.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And we had a witness, and I mentioned that his name was mentioned 312 times.
Yes.
In Project 2025.
Yeah.
So I was like, this is interesting that he don't know nothing about it, but he's all through it.
And if it's his name, he's riveted to it.
No. And he's relying on the people that absolutely pulled it together.
Like J.D. Vance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So here's the deal. I mean, I think that there are those that just said, I want to do something different. Yeah. And so we know that typically when people are feeling it, especially in the economy, they tend to just go the other way.
Why?
The problem is that this wasn't the guy to fix anything. This is the guy that is the king of breaking things, as we can see.
Representative Jasmine Crockett delivers a sharp critique of Republican leadership, arguing that it is actively undermining constitutional and democratic norms through its executive actions and decisions. She describes the administration's approach as steamrolling over civil liberties, warning that such efforts weaken the nation's legal and institutional framework. A key concern she raises is the growing use of executive power to dismantle existing safeguards, sidestep oversight, and erode checks and balances. Additionally, she expresses alarm over the Supreme Court's role in legitimizing controversial policies, suggesting that judicial decisions are being used to provide legal cover for actions that may be unconstitutional. Crockett ties these concerns to real-world consequences for Americans, cautioning that essential services, social stability, and fundamental rights could deteriorate under current leadership. Her apprehension extends to Project 2025, a conservative policy blueprint aimed at reshaping the federal government in ways she views as radical and authoritarian. She highlights contradictions in Republican leaders' claims of having no connection to the initiative, noting that many of them are cited extensively throughout its framework despite their public denials. By calling attention to the project's goals, such as mass firings of federal employees, the consolidation of executive power, and the dismantling of long-standing protections, Crockett frames it as a serious threat to democracy. She argues that many Americans remain unaware of the implications of Project 2025 and warns that the public may only grasp its dangers once they begin to experience them directly, such as through reduced access to healthcare, weakened institutions, and economic instability. Through her critique, Crockett underscores the urgency of educating the public and mobilizing resistance to what she views as an existential threat to democratic governance.
Country together like this country, where you have said to everyone, we want to hear what everyone has to say. We've lost sight of the fact that part of the greatness of the U.S. is the rough and tumble. You know, you and I have to figure out a way to be here together.
Yeah.
Regardless of what I look like, what I think, you have to live with me like I got to live with you. Like, we have to keep reminding people when we're talking about making sure women know what's going on. It's not because women don't. It's because we need the men to recognize that the women are on top of their stuff. We're trying to help y'all.
Can I say one thing?
You can say many.
Before the break, we were talking about how college kids have to vote and all that stuff. Young people have to understand something. If this 2025 goes into operation, your mother, your grandma, your father, your older people in your family, they will not maybe be getting Medicare, Social Security. Everything's going to get cut back. That means it's on you.
Yeah.
That's on you. So you have to remember these things. When you're a young person, life may be your oyster right now, but it's not going to last.
Well, yeah, because you're heading in our direction. And you want to be, because the alternative is not the best.
Right.
So you want to be alive, but you have to also recognize we're all in it together, regardless of race, creed, color, gender, whatever. We are all taking care of each other.
Whoopi Goldberg, known for her direct and incisive commentary, pressed Crockett on whether Democrats have done enough to counter Trump's aggressive policy moves and clear messaging strategy. Crockett acknowledged the struggle, admitting that Democrats have failed to craft a compelling, unified narrative that resonates with the public. She argued that while Republicans act swiftly and decisively, often through bold executive actions and strong message discipline, Democrats have been slower to rally around a single, effective message. This lack of cohesion, she suggested, has left the party struggling to push back against misinformation and policy shifts that could have long-term consequences for American democracy. As the discussion deepened, Crockett issued a stark warning to the public, emphasizing that many Americans will not fully grasp the impact of current Republican policies until they begin experiencing real hardships. She pointed to potential hospital closures, cuts to Social Security, and a deterioration of public services as likely outcomes of continued Republican leadership, arguing that by the time people recognize what is happening, it may be too late to correct course. Goldberg, while agreeing with the stakes, challenged Crockett on whether Democrats possess the urgency and strategy necessary to prevent such outcomes. Crockett doubled down, insisting that education and proactive outreach must be prioritized to ensure voters understand the direct consequences of political inaction. Their exchange underscored a growing tension within the Democratic Party, balancing the need for a stronger offensive strategy while trying to convey the dangers of policies that many voters may not recognize until they feel the effects in their daily lives.
Necessarily because of the subject matter, but more so because basically they said, no, this was signed into law, and in a 9-0 decision, they would not allow him to unilaterally overturn it. So we will see how well they hold up, but we know that this administration keeps threatening judges. If a judge hands down a decision that they don't like, they talk about impeaching that judge and getting rid of that judge, and they won't be able to get rid of these judges because the standard is too high. But he may end up telling some of those Supreme Court justices that are his, it's time for you to go. And they potentially will leave because he did that last time.
Well, I want to ask you about Democrats. You're obviously leading next generation voice in the Democratic Party. And while Trump is moving at this breakneck pace, it feels like signing all these EOs, doing these long-ranging press conferences in the Oval Office, Democrats seem to not be getting their footing on what the message and strategy is to push back. We think of the leaders chanting, "We will win" outside of Treasury, which was widely panned. You've talked about Democrats needing a branding overhaul. Are you satisfied with the approach so far? And what do they need to do to kind of get their mojo back?
You know what? I think that just like the rest of the world, we've got a bit of whiplash. Because for some people, even those that voted for him, they said, well, we've been here before. And we didn't fall apart the last time he was here, so we won't fall apart this time. And so I think that while we had the playbook right there for us, Project 2025, I still think that even some Democrats were like, oh, well, he's just going to do what he did last time. And he's not. World leaders are recognizing.
What are your thoughts on this critical issue? Do you believe the Democratic Party needs a stronger strategy to counter Trump's aggressive policies, or will the public only recognize the consequences when it's too late? We'd love to hear your opinions in the comments below. Thank you for watching and engaging with us. Your voice matters in these important discussions. If you enjoy this conversation and want to stay informed about key political debates, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more insightful content.